Yeah, it's one after, and we have a quorum. So we are about to call our meeting to order. We'll wait for Alderman Frazier to get back up here. Oh, listen, I don't blame you wanting to see all of those handsome and beautiful young faces. We're so glad to have these students here. Well, good morning. It is a pleasure to call this meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for our prayer to be followed by our pledge. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this beautiful day, and we thank you for the opportunity we have to come together and discuss items that are important to our city. Father, we ask you to be with each person here, guide our discussion, our deliberation, and let everything we do be in keeping with your will. We thank you especially, O Lord, for these young people who are here today, our future. And we're so grateful for them, their parents, their teachers, and so glad they can be here with us. Father, thank you for your many blessings upon Natchez. In your precious name we pray. Amen. Amen. Let us now join together in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Some of the loudest voices were our Micro City students, and we're going to introduce them in just a moment. That was really good. Glad to hear that Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to ask the clerk to administer the roll call.
Okay. Alderwoman Hall.
Here.
Alderman Frazier.
Here.
Alderwoman Smith. Here. Alderwoman Irving.
Here.
Alderman Davis. Alderman Maroney.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Alderman Davis is in the middle of some military testing, but he will be here, we hope, shortly. So we're glad to have everyone. Alderwoman Hall is participating by phone this morning, and so glad to have you online with us, Alderwoman Hall. We will ask the clerk for approval of minutes.
Okay. We have one set of minutes that we're requesting approval. It's the January 25th regular meeting. Would like to note that one correction was made after they were sent out, and that was the Coding Academy ribbon cutting will be held on February 18th at 11 a.m., not February 8th.
So move. Second.
Motion made by Alderwoman Irving, seconded by Alderwoman Smith. Discussion. We'll call for the question. We will proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item, welcome visitors. We have with us the Global Prep Micro Society Leadership Group. These are young students who are now serving in roles of leadership in this it's a micro government, micro society. In my absence, I was at the Capitol and could not be there recently, and Alderwoman Smith, on behalf of the city as Mayor Pro Tem, actually helped administer the oaths of office.
Yes.
And so we're going to make introductions, and we're going to ask these students to come, please, and stand in front of us as I call your name. We have the Smartland President, Kylie Miner. Give Kylie a hand. We have the Smartland Vice President, Brooklyn White. We have the Smartland Governor of third grade, Kason Carroll. We have the Smartland Governor of second grade, Darren Fleming. We have the Smartland Governor of First Grade, Micaiah Thornburg. And we have the Smartland Governor of Kindergarten, Eon Phipps. And we also have teacher, Ms. Kim James. Ms. James. Our Micro Society Coordinator, Ms. Sonia Brown. Ms. Brown. She did not make it. And then the Executive Director of Global Prep, which is a wonderful school, located, for some of those who don't know, is at the former location of the old Trinity School. Love going out there. And Dr. Joanne Rucker, you are doing great things. And we're going to, Dr. Rucker, we're going to invite you to stand on this side so that we can get a picture. We're going to, I'm going to come down. I'm going to ask Alderwoman Smith also to come down as we pose with you. And then, Dr. Rucker, we're going to ask you to share a word on behalf of this great program. I'll come down on this side. All right, thank you. We are so proud of you, and I know you're having a great experience.
Mr. May I join you all being an educator myself? It's always good to be in the midst. Okay, thank you.
Well, we'll invite all the aldermen if you'd like to come.
Yes.
And stand behind us here if we want to take another picture, certainly. I just want to know what has been the greatest thing about this program. You don't all have to, but any of you who want to.
What's the best thing about Micro Society?
Can't be shy. You don't get involved.
Explain what you mean.
When we get our checks, we go to the bank and we get money.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So what do you love about it?
I know that we have different opportunities to go different places.
Very good.
Oh, that's
Very good.
great.
Very good. Anyone else want to share what you love about it?
I know that we can be feeling at this house.
Well spoken by our youngest elder. If you step down, we'll take one more picture here. It's tough to get all of this in. We'll see if we can. And then Dr. Rucker, we'd like for you then to go to the podium and share a few words. All right. Thank you.
Again, thank you, Mayor Gibson, Alderwoman Smith. We appreciate you coming out, and to all of our aldermen and everyone on the dais and everyone in here. Greetings from Instant Impact Global Prep, IIGP for short, because that's a lot of words. And so IIGP. Micro Society is a program that we actually have that teaches our students about the real world. So actually they have their own government. When they say Smartland, they name their country and so forth. And so they actually run elections, and we have our legislature, that's that group right there. They make rules. We have a constitution, and that's when we had to take the oath and all for the positions. But they run their businesses as well. And so when they talk about popcorn, that's because there's a popcorn parlor. There are a group of students who run a popcorn shop. We have a nonprofit businesses as well. They talked about the bank, but they learn they're employees. Yes. at their businesses, and they get paid, and they had to take out a business loan, and they look for profits and losses and things of that nature. Everything that's real world
Yes.
that we learn to do. We even have our miniature police department. We call them peacekeepers, and they have tickets. And at that particular time, at 2:30 every day, we're facilitators. We back up, and they run the show. And they go to their jobs. They go to work. They also know if you do not show up for work, it helps with absenteeism, because if you're not there at work, you do not get paid. So we're teaching life lessons. They do write checks. They do everything that we do on a regular in our regular lives. And so we're so proud of them. We do want to invite everyone to come out, though. We've had people to come out. I know Dr. Hardy, she came out to shop because we have market day, and we do open it to the public. That's going to be March 6th. But when they open it, we have our own currency. And so you have to trade US dollars for micro dollars. I just want to go and say that. I think Chief Cal came and spent a lot of money, because we're teaching, again, our students about the real world. And we appreciate this opportunity. And we look for partners in any business that we have. So they get to talk to people who are walking this in that particular path now, what it's like for real. And they get to ask questions, and they get to grow hand in hand with someone who's experiencing life in that way. So thank you all.
Thank you. That's a great program. Thank you. Alderwoman Smith?
Well, no question, but I was just going to say, I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed being there last week for this, and how impressed I was with all of the children. And I wanted the government ones to come in today, and just to kind of see for a little while, and don't feel like y'all have to stay the whole time, but if y'all want to stay and see a few things with our meeting, and I thought that would be helpful for them. And Chief Green was there. She did the oath of office for some of the police officials, and this is one of the neatest programs I've ever seen. So I just thank y'all for doing this. And the kids, all of them were so well behaved, so smart, and just so excited about the whole day. So it was fun. You got to do it last year. I know you felt the same
Glad
way.
I was able to share a little of the fun.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all.
Oh, I have a question. Sure. How's the exchange rate today? American currency versus, I'm just hoping that it's strong.
I believe it's strong. We
Okay,
did a
good.
2-to-1, and so we're watching the economy, and we'll keep that in mind as we make the rate today.
Thank you, Dr. Rucker.
One quick
Yes.
other thing is, I know they will accept sponsorships. I know UMB, we want a sponsorship. The bank, they have the different businesses. If any other businesses would like to send a sponsorship, and that helps them increase what they're doing with the program and fund the program.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for
Great.
saying that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, again, children, our future, thank you for being here, and God bless you. Next on our agenda is the presentation of a traffic study for downtown Natchez. And we are going to have this both in person and virtually. I want to share a few comments first, because a lot has been asked, a lot has been said, a lot has been speculated upon, and even alleged. And we want to just say that it was, as everyone will remember, many months ago, that the city set out on a plan to perform a microseal project of downtown, which would include a resurfacing, not a full asphalt resurfacing, but a microseal resurfacing of Main Street, Franklin Street, and the streets that cross between. Unfortunately, we were unable to secure any bids for this project, and so we had to delay the project, and that happened back in the fall. What we have been doing is making repairs that are needed in certain areas of downtown, so that we can possibly, in the next budget year, look at another microsealing project. We've actually met already with a contractor just 2 weeks ago on site, who will soon be performing a test patch of a new technology that is very similar to microseal, but might be better. Well, the reason for this traffic study is, if you reseal a street, you then have to repaint the street. And we thought, well, that would be a good time to take a look at many of the suggestions that have been offered for repainting the street. Well, when we found out we weren't going to seal the street, the urgency to repaint the street became less urgent. because we obviously have no intention to paint streets that are in need of repaving. That would be a waste of money. However, obviously, we do want to maintain striping best we can of all city streets. That said, there was a study performed. Originally, we had contracted with Volkert Engineering at the rate of $39,000, which we thought was ridiculous. And I've spoken about the government rate in the past. It's just awful what governments all across this country are being charged, I think, to do studies. The Downtown Natchez Alliance quickly found a more affordable alternative with a gentleman named Bert Kirkendall. And that study was about $10,000 cheaper than the Volkert study would have been. And so we quickly decided to change course and go with Mr. Kirkendall and his company. The resulting plan was informally shown at some meetings at the office of DNA. In fact, I was invited the same night we were having National Night Out to attend with the board of DNA and to look at the plan. And that is the first and only time that I've reviewed the plan. The plan was shared informally, I understand, with members of the board. But to this date, the plan has never been officially presented to the board. Now, I will tell you, one reason it has not been presented is because, as I said 2 weeks ago, it's no longer a top priority for us. It may be next year before we're looking at microsealing any streets. Therefore, the repainting of streets downtown will not be something we look to do anytime soon. Also, I would say this, another reason that we have kind of put this aside is we understand there was a lot of discussion back in the fall, and it was covered by the local newspaper, the Natchez Democrat, where downtown merchants discussed the plan. And the resulting fallout and a lot of comments that we all have received made us realize, this may not be something that everyone's supportive of. We'll give this some time. But there has been an outcry lately, and we want to be fully transparent. Everyone wanting to see it. Our city clerk didn't even have a copy of the plan. As I said, it has not been officially presented. So today, Mr. Kirkendall, thank you for being kind enough. And Kevin Myers, our executive director of DNA, who's been helping on this, thank you for being kind enough here to present the plan. We are going to allow about 10 minutes. This is not a public hearing. We're not going to have any public comments. We will entertain questions on behalf of the Board of Aldermen. And then the plan will be taken under advisement. It will be spread on our minutes. And then the city clerk will be asked to make this plan public, share it with local media. And we also will hopefully have it on our website where members of the public can view the plan. It is a lengthy plan, a lot in here. And some people may say, well, why haven't you reviewed it in depth? I'll tell you why. We have so many projects going on right now that I prioritize the projects that I really, really pore over. And because this is something we're not going to be able to even do for another year, it has not been on the top of my list, nor has it been on my desk at all. And so I'm just being as transparent and forthcoming as I can be. And I hope I haven't offended the individuals who work so hard on this plan, because no offense is intended. I'm sure that we'll get into more of an in-depth study of this plan as the months go along. We will invite public comment once the plan is made public. But Mr. Myers, I'm now recognizing you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Board, for having us here this morning. And no offense taken. This is not something that the city can jump into or do overnight. It is a long-term, comprehensive study and possible plan for our, the future of downtown. And it started 9 months ago with Bert Kirkendall from TSW. And I will hand it over to Bert for him to, and I also gave you a brief handout for your reference. It's more or less the highlight summary of the plan, so you don't have to go through the entire large, extensive plan. Thank you.
Mr. Kirkendall, good morning. We're going to make sure we get your volume up, make sure we can hear you here in the council chamber. All right?
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mayor, for that introduction. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Board of Aldermen. It's good to be with you again. I guess it was about 4 months ago when we were doing the site visit and I was able to meet with you, and also glad to have this chance to come back and look at some of the recommendations and also answer any questions. So to keep this brief, I know we have a big agenda today. I will just kind of pick the highlights of the plan. And really, the focus of the plan has been to discover and investigate how can downtown Natchez be a very safe place to move around, especially by walking, as walking is the most basic form of movement, especially in the downtown setting, but also how can it circulate traffic as well? How can parking be available where roads to be available? Looking now, also looking at future conditions. So let's dive right into it. And it based on the recommendations of the downtown master plan.
Mr. Kirkendall, you may have to speak up a little louder and get closer to your microphone and speak a little slower. I think we're having a little trouble hearing you. Okay?
Okay, I will do that. And I may have to change my headsets to something that I'll get my voice there. Wait 1 second. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, and I'll pick up as well. Thank you for letting me present virtually, and just stop me at any point if you can't, you can slow down or cover anything or can't hear me. So just drawing notice that the idea of the plan came out of the downtown master plan, mobility recommendations. With that plan, there was not an engineer on the team. There were recommendations made, but really no traffic analysis to kind of check out how those recommendations would impact. Also, we're looking at other factors as well. And the first big focus has been on safety. And we pulled the traffic safety data that came from the police department, also MDOT. And we're surprised at the high number of crashes that are happening in downtown. This is a 3-year window. And we had 79 crashes on Canal Street, 69 on Main Street, 64 on Franklin, MLK, 61. And we'll highlight there buildings getting hit by cars. A lot of this is due to cars traveling very rapidly in the downtown area. Cars going too fast, losing control. A lot of them are happening in intersections, but also you'll note in the map that a lot of these are pedestrian crashes. The orange dots are people getting hit by cars, which is already a very serious condition. And also bicycle crashes. We have serious injury and fatal injury crashes in the downtown. So I'm used to seeing, kind of a heat map of crashes. In study area, I was totally surprised at the intensity, especially on those primary runway corridors. Also, we looked at traffic volumes. So we utilized streetlight data, which gathered the past 3 years of historical traffic data moving through the downtown. And also a little surprised there too that the traffic volumes are not high in the downtown area. The highest volume street is Canal Street, and it's about 11,000 cars per day. And a 3-lane street can handle about 21,000 cars per day. So it's at about half capacity. And the rest of the streets, they're lower than that also. So not a lot of volume downtown, but there are vehicles moving quickly downtown. And we looked at the existing street configuration, and we're caught up on the history of how the downtown streets were transferred from two-way traffic to one-way traffic, one-way, two lanes going one direction, to facilitate employment hubs that were developed in the downtown area in the 1980s. And just the effect that that's had. Also, we looked at where the current traffic control, the current traffic signal locations, also the always stop locations. And so with the circulation part of the plan, we looked at how can move safely around downtown, but in a way that is speeding. And one thing from my experience in general traffic, engineering experience, is that known for having higher pace speeds. And the primary reason for that is people are able to jockey for position. They can pass Ubers, they can rush to try to beat traffic signals. So really the one-way pairs, the multi-lane one-way pairs, were really kind of high on the list there. We're looking at what could change to make those safer conditions, those specifically that's Franklin and Maine and Commerce Control. So let's look at the next map. And this is skipping ahead really to the recommendations and then kind of breaking that out and what that looks like on a per street basis. So in efforts to control speeds, when I say control speeds, probably the best terminology is to reduce illegal speeding. Trying to get cars, creating an atmosphere, an engineered atmosphere, where cars are motivated to go the speed limit or below, so 25, 30 miles per hour, whatever that speed limit is, to go that speed limit or below, as opposed to going faster than that and creating those unsafe conditions for other drivers, but especially for pedestrians. So the primary streets we looked at are the primary two-way pairs, Franklin and Maine, and also Commerce and Pearl, because they are multi-lane one-way streets. There's a great opportunity there to convert those back to what they were before, to two-way streets again. Now, the remaining one-way streets are one-lane one-way streets. We really did not look at making any changes to those, because any changes to try to turn those into two-way streets would remove on-street parking. And we heard a lot that on-street parking is really important for certain businesses, for certain residences. Also, it's really important for traffic calming. It creates what we call virtual friction to slow cars down. So we really didn't look at any kind of revisions or changes to those streets, except for Broadway. Broadway is a one-way street, it's extremely wide. And so there's an opportunity on Broadway to convert to two-way, but also still have that space for on-street parking for certain businesses. Another big benefit to two-way traffic is just wayfinding. It's easier for people to get around, to get to where they're trying to get with two-way traffic. Instead of having to loop back multiple blocks to try to find a parking spot, you can turn left or right on any of these streets. You go either direction. Also, there's a lot more business visibility when there's two-way traffic, because you're approaching it from both directions. So there's a lot of things that we get into recommending two-way traffic. I would say the wayfinding is especially important for visitors being able to access. So looking at individual street, what that could look like. On Franklin Street, currently the lanes are really wide also. They're 12 feet wide. That's typically how wide interstate lanes are for really high speed traffic. Also, the parking lanes are wide at 9 feet. And in the process of converting to two-way, what that does, you can create 10-foot lanes, which is the optimal lane width for a downtown street. And then 7-foot parking, then that gives 4 lanes of 4 feet of what we call a buffer space. And one thing we heard a lot about from downtown merchants is that they need space for trucks to park to do loading and unloading. Currently, they double park in one of the two-way lanes. And what that buffer lane does, it creates a buffer between the parking and the through lane, but also it creates some space for truck loading and unloading. There still would be the necessity to move around that truck, but really moving to a two-way scenario with all-way stops as opposed to traffic signals, it creates a much calmer environment. So instead of pulling out into a travel lane where someone's likely to be going 35 or 40 miles per hour, they're going to be going more likely 20 or 25 miles per hour. It's a much calmer atmosphere and would be a very safe maneuver. I do want to mention also the recommendations for going from traffic signals to all-way stops. We'll look at the traffic numbers here in 1 second, but a huge benefit of that is safety. Also to create pause points throughout the downtown as opposed to a car trying to hit all the green lights, go as fast as possible to make them, they know if they're coming through downtown, they're going to be pausing at every location. That can discourage pass-through traffic. A lot of folks are cutting through downtown to get kind of across town as opposed to using the higher capacity highways. So a lot of that can reduce that as well. A similar configuration on Main Street. If you can convert from one-way to two-way travel, it creates that the 10-foot drive lanes, the buffer space between the parking and the drive lanes, all for traffic calming. And really the same scenario for Commerce and Pearl Streets. Looking at Broadway Street, currently it's a 20-foot wide lane. A single lane is 20 feet wide. There's room there, it's still a constrained section, actually widens up other places too, but there's opportunity there to create 2 10-foot travel lanes. The biggest benefit there is just ease of access to the businesses, the parks, all the spaces along Broadway of anyone driving. It just makes wayfinding and moving around that much easier. Canal Streets, the only difference with Canal is the opportunity to turn that two-way center turn lane, which is continuous, into a median with turn lanes at intersections. The huge benefit of having a median is that it's very traffic calming. It's also a very beautiful entrance to the city, but having, again, that vertical friction can really calm those speeds down. Canal Street traffic is pretty fast. People are coming off the highway. They're trying to get downtown. They're trying to cut through. It's a chance to kind of reset and say you're entering an urban setting. It's a different context here than it was in the highway, and it's time to slow down speeds to that 20, 25, and 30 mile per hour range. Also, in the southern part of Canal, there's actually room in the right of way between the curves to install bike lanes, which can increase the access to the hotels down on the southern side of Canal. Definitely on MLK, it's a lot of pavement right now. It's travel lanes, it's paved two-way turn lane. The opportunity there is to create a landscape median that brings the space, makes it more comfortable for people walking, makes it more beautiful, but also creating buffers between the sidewalks and the street. Landscape buffers, street trees. It gets hot when there's no street trees, and having street trees out there can reduce the temperature of someone walking by 10 to 15 degrees in the summertime. There's a huge difference for the livability and visibility for anyone came to your drive. And then looking quickly at Franklin Streets, so this would be east of King, Franklin, and also St. Catherine. They're currently one-way, two-lane roads, and you probably experienced it. I've experienced it out there on the ground. People go really, really fast. These roads, they really feel like expressways in the downtown. So what they've kind of done is they've chopped that neighborhood up into 3 pieces, and it makes it very challenging to move more south, especially as a pedestrian. But even for cars pulling out, because there are no pauses for traffic, and also the engineering design encourages cars to travel very quickly. East Main, there's the opportunity to pinch down these really wide 16-foot drive lanes to 10-foot drive lanes and 6-foot bike lanes. And same thing with East State. Keep that on street parking, just make those drive lanes instead of 18 feet wide, make them 6 feet wide. And that can be continued out on John Quitman. The AUT on John Quitman is very low. There's not a lot of traffic. There's a lot of lanes and a lot of capacity. There's an amazing opportunity there to turn a beautiful boulevard into a really accessible walking, biking, east-west connector from downtown to the neighborhoods and all the way to the Masters Trace. I want to highlight that real quick when I look at traffic. I know we're probably running out of time. But what that looks like, could look like, is the buffer protected bike lanes on Main and on State would come together on Johnny Equipment and can connect all the way to Masters Trace. And that could be done pretty simply, easily, with striping and with flex posts or traffic buttons. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Looking at what happens with traffic, if these changes happen, is that going to cause Armageddon? As heard like Atlanta. But really, there's almost zero impact to traffic. So, we looked at existing traffic flow, also projected. So existing capacity, what you see there are colors, that's the volume of the capacity for the streets. And it's very low. It's all less than 50%, 60%, which means the current streets are handling it. For post capacity, that's moving to two-way travel on the primary streets and the other proposed changes. And it's, as you can see from the maps, it's almost no impact whatsoever, because what's happening is people are finding different ways to move through downtown instead of focusing a lot of traffic on those one-way pier corridors. But also we looked at each intersection. We've got the traffic turning movement counts at every intersection in the study area. And every intersection is a level of service A or B, both in both scenarios. So whether with traffic signals or with all-way stops. It's a very, very great, very, very good level of service. And just to give you reference, level of service F, that's when things start shutting down. A is essentially free flow. A through D, even D, is okay, good in the downtown, but we're talking about levels of service A and B. Jumping into parking, we did a deep dive on the existing parking supply. Downtown, but on-street parking, off-street lots, public and private lots. And then we looked at the demand for parking, and that's based on land use, all the different businesses, all the public uses, the offices, the residences. And we looked at supply and demand in terms of net parking supply. So if you look at that map at the top right corner, the gray areas have more supply than demand. And this is looking at kind of a worst case scenario. It's everything demanding parking at the same time. So you can see the red indicates there's more demand than supply. So obviously in this northwest quadrant, there's the convention center, the civic center, major employers there. There's a huge demand and not enough supply. Also, you can see the heat in the major retail areas on Franklin Street, Main Street, Commerce and Pearl. There's a lot of demand there as well that's greater than supply. So we looked at, well, what can help meet this demand? And the recommendations include enforcing 2-hour parking in the key locations. The current setup is 2-hour parking signs throughout downtown, but the locals know it's not necessarily going to be enforced with them. The visitors don't know that, so they may think, well, I can't park here, I can't park here for long. But the idea with this is that enforce 2-hour parking, but only in those really key locations. What they can do on places like Franklin Street is really help the retail there. Currently, anyone can park there all day. It could be an employee, it could be a business owner, it could be someone who is shopping down the street. But what you really want there are open spots available for customers. So by enforcing that 2-hour parking, just in those key locations where, especially with the retail demand, restaurant demand is really high. it can really help that turnover happen. Then employees, they instead of parking there, they're gonna park in off-site locations, either a different block or a parking lot. So that can really help that retail access. Enable public access to private lots, currently designed chapter, makes this parking lot available, so that is that the other, potentially church and other lots could be available for public parking, maybe even as paid parking, but in some cases. Parking wayfinding is really crucial, letting people know where the parking spots are available. And then to really solve not solve, but to help the issue, the huge parking demand in Northwest quadrant. And it's something the city's been looking at for a while. It is developing surface parking in the Thrive property at the corner of Earl and Franklin to serve the public demands, the special event demands, and also the employment demands. And so looking at the impact of those recommendations, we look at what that does with the parking, with that parking supply map. It really helps a lot, especially in these areas around retail. It provides more parking, available parking spaces for people to shop. It helps in a lot of ways in that Northwest quadrant, the demand. Really, the long-term solution in that quadrant is going to be most likely a parking structure in that area. But creating service parking really would make a big difference. And once again, this is based on the kind of worst case scenario of something happening in all those venues at one time. So I'm going to jump back.
We're about out of time, Mr. Kirkendall.
Okay. I think I'm good.
Just letting you know.
Right. That is it, my presentation. I'm sorry if that went over, but is there time for questions?
We have time for a few from the aldermen, and we'll ask our aldermen if they have any questions.
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Alderman Frazier.
I don't have any questions, but because I could sit here all day and talk about this, and I'm looking at this just on campus downtown. It goes beyond downtown in this comprehensive plan. Am I correct? Mr. The gentleman online. This, like I said, this encompasses just more than downtown. As I look at this plan, I can say this much. Being in law enforcement in the time that I went to the police department in 1976, I look at this plan, and this plan is basically going back to the old way of parking and in and out of going to downtown. Franklin Street, St. Catherine Street used to be a two-way street. Franklin Street used to be a two-way street. So now and this plan is suggesting that we go back to the old way in some ways, parking downtown, and say some of the downtown streets, Main Street used to be a two-way street. East Franklin in the downtown area used to be a street. All these used to be different. And also, I'm looking at this plan too. We used to have law enforcement downtown. This plan, like I said, this plan goes back to the old ways of when we used to do it the old way, and we had to look out for the merchants and people who got business down there. We had problems with parking and business unloading. So when I look at it, this plan, like I say, it's going back to the old ways that we used to have a long time ago. Am I correct?
That is correct, yes, sir. It's going back to, and not two-way travel on all the streets. Probably originally all of the streets were two-way, and we're not recommending that on the one-way streets like, say, Washington Street, for example, or Jefferson. But absolutely on Franklin and Main, also Commerce and Pearl, we are recommending going back to that traditional two-way setting. Also, originally, all of the intersections were stop signs. You could go back far enough. So that is true, and that's the trend that's happening in a lot of cities around the country. It's something I used to work for the city of Chattanooga, It's something that we did here for traffic calming and also for just ease of getting around downtown. So yes, sir, that is correct.
And also, you're recommending enforcement, correct? Well, you have an officer
Yes, sir.
who can, who goes, okay, writing the traffic citation.
Because that is the very first means. Yes, but I'll have the enforcement, the 2-hour parking. With enforcement, we did make the recommendation to revise speed limits to 20 miles per hour and to post that at all entry locations. Currently 25.
My concern is that, okay, my concern is that the board, we have future plans in doing a parking garage downtown and other future plans going out further outside the city, that this plan is going out St. Catherine and Devereaux Drive out that way. But it's encompassed a whole lot. And like I said, we're gonna have to have, am I correct, Mr. Mayor, we're gonna have a public hearing on this?
Well, right now, we'll just invite public comment. If people want to respond, we're going to be sharing this
Okay.
publicly.
Oh, just let
We
me,
have already received a lot of public comment.
just-
I know I've gotten the calls, emails, text messages. A few folks have been wearing me out over the last 2 weeks, and I'm thinking, we aren't even talking about doing this yet. One reason we've got to move on with our meeting, because this is something that is possibly, some might happen. I think Mr. Kirkendall has made some great recommendations. Some of it, we just got to see what the public says.
Mr. Mayor.
And that's going to be way in the future. I've got to recognize Alderwoman
No,
Smith.
Mr. Mayor, I wasn't
but
through. I wasn't through.
Alderman Frazier,
I was still
I'll let you close, and then I'm going to recognize Alderwoman Smith.
Okay, like I said, this encompasses a whole lot, and you was talking about micro sealing the streets downtown. As you say, that's another event. This just don't encompass just micro sealing. It's encompass a array of things. So I'm gonna yield my time because the time is late.
Thank you, Alderman Frazier. Alderwoman Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just quickly want to say for people to be open-minded. I think anytime there's change, the initial reaction can be negative instead of just looking at it, but just do your own research too. Go to other towns. I did have a business owner downtown that asked me to go to Vicksburg to look at their main avenue through there, and that they've gone to two-way and slowed the traffic down. And so I will go take a look at that. I know I've been to other places, Fairhope and Oxford, that have slowed down traffic in different ways. That's the main thing. We've got to do something. They are thorough. They're throughways now. I mean, they're thoroughfares. That's what they've become, and it's very scary. Our visitors, our locals are in danger when they're down there crossing the street trying to visit businesses. So I don't have an opinion yet on any of it, but I just ask you to have an open mind.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Alderwoman Irving?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to, because I have some comments from constituents that has been in constant contact with me, and to hear him say that Main Street is one of the streets that considered to be a two-way, I think that'll be great. At this point in time, we have a runner on Main Street, and so it's indicating the traffic flow, and look like it's going to be a pretty high volume. The runner is not completely across the street, and it should be. And I was going to ask Mr. Dahl if he was here today. Let's consider that so that we can give a more accurate count of how many cars are traveling up and down that street. I like the idea too that he said that you could possibly reduce some of the speed, and not only Main Street. We could look at St. Catherine Street too, being a main thoroughfare coming through there. We constantly have from the light on O'Farrell and St. Catherine Street. That's a highway to the corner of MLK and Jefferson. So that's a constant speed. So to hear him say that's great news. This is overall, I think, a great plan. I hope that we really consider it and not be something that sits on the shelf and we sit on it. Again, it needs to have more town hall meetings, getting more feedback from members of our community on ways to create more solutions and ways to keep our community safe. Because that's the most important thing. We want safety
That's right.
in our travels.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Maroney?
I'd like to remind folks of a key term that's been used throughout this throughout this presentation, and that is that term of traffic calming. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to calm down the traffic in downtown Nashville. And I, in the interest of experimentation, I ran a little experiment last night. I went out late after I figured things were quieted down, and I actually took a stopwatch and I drove from MLK and I drove down Main Street. And I ran a little test, and I ran some stoplights in the process, but there was nobody around. I figured Cal would be okay if I got in trouble and she'd bail me out. But I started there at the fire station on MLK. I drove down Main Street, and I treated every intersection as a four-way stop, right? And then I turned and I went up Franklin Street, and I did exactly the same thing. I treated every intersection as a four-way stop, running stoplights if I had to in order to accomplish my goal. I then turned right back down MLK and went right back down Main Street again and obeyed the traffic signals. And I timed that. And then back up Franklin Street with the stopwatch, obeying the traffic signals. And I got timings. And then I did them both again, following the traffic signals, just to confirm the numbers. All right. Driving Main Street as four-way stops from MLK to Canal, it took me 1 minute and 49 seconds. That's not very long. And then Franklin Street took me 1 minute and 52. Essentially should be the same because you're same distance, same stops. You know, I must have stopped a little bit longer on a couple of the stops on Franklin. And then going down Main Street, following the traffic signals, I caught 2 red lights. It took me 2 minutes and 18 seconds. It took me longer following the lights. And then on the second pass, it took me 2 minutes and 12 seconds. So it took me longer both times. It took me longer to make my way down Main Street following the traffic signals. All right. Franklin Street, going up Franklin Street following the traffic signals, I only caught 1 red light both times. It took me 1 minute and 47 to travel Franklin Street, and then 1 minute and 51 my second time. And I was 1 minute and 52 doing Franklin Street as four-way stops. Now, here's the interesting thing. I mean, the times, the numbers don't lie. You can, doing four-way stops, you can actually get through just as fast, if not faster. On Main Street, the way the signals work, you get down there faster, all right? But the most interesting thing was, it gets back to this term of traffic calming. When I turned onto Main Street, I knew I was going to have to stop at Rankin. I was watching my speed the whole time. My car's got a heads-up display, so it's right there. Driving down that street with four-way stops, I know I'm going to have to stop at each intersection. I only ever got to 21 miles an hour, and I felt like I was pushing it. All right. Most of the time was 19 to 20. What did Bert recommend as a speed limit? 20, maybe 25. That's where I was. But I felt calmer. I didn't feel like I was hurrying, trying to make the light. And traffic calming is a great term because I felt calmer. I didn't feel like, oh, I got to try and make the light. And then when I went through both passes on Main Street and Franklin Street, the lights are green. Oh, I got to try and make it. And I was constantly pushing up to 25, trying to stay slow. But that light's green up there and I want to try and make it. I'm trying to stay slow and it's still pushing me faster.
So
Subconsciously, I'm driving faster, and yet my times were still about the same. So it calms you down when you know that you're just going a block and you know you've got to stop again. You take your time. It's a much more enjoyable experience. Now, back to something else Bert said. And again, I realize that, this thing is way out because we're not going to do anything maybe until we resurface our streets. But one of the other things he mentioned was if we do this reconfiguration, hopefully it cuts down on the amount of traffic that comes off the bridge and blows down Canal and blows out Franklin Street or State, trying to cut through town rather than taking John R. Junkin and Sergeant Prentice. All right. Now, if those folks were cutting through Natchez and they were deciding to stop and have lunch somewhere, or deciding to stop on Franklin Street at one of the shops and go shopping and purchase something, that's fine. That'd be great if they were cutting through town and we were getting some business out of it. But they're not, and y'all know they're not. You see them all the time if you drive those streets. Those folks are blowing down those streets, and they're cutting through. Well, why are they cutting through? Because they're in a hurry. So what are they going to do if they're in a hurry? They're going to speed. That's exactly what we see. He hit the nail on the head. He knows what he's doing. Same thing happens going the other way. They come in off of Devereaux, get on St. Catherine Street, driving through Felicia's neighborhood, and they're blowing down St. Catherine Street 40 miles an hour. Sometimes
we are almost an hour into our meeting.
So as you're driving
And so
around,
we're gonna have to-
as you're driving around, think about this and see what we're talking about.
All right. Yes, Alderwoman Irving,
He mentioned something that
I'm gonna need order.
Alderman Maroney mentioned something that I thought we need to really consider. He said reduce speed. I don't think it takes a year to do that. I think it takes officers out at these sites and thinking, and actually it's been shared with me on Main Street. They are speeding coming down Main Street. And they break their cars when they see a car sitting there or officer sitting there. That has actually been confirmed. And so I'm hoping that this board, let's look at that, because we're talking of people backing out their driveways, entering that street on Main Street, in a constant flow of traffic. So I hope it doesn't take a year to consider that one.
Okay, thank you.
Make a decision to
We
reduce
are
as
going to have to
board.
bring this to a close. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all as well.
Mr. Myers. I thank you, Mr. Kirkendall. And I think, like Alderman Frazier said at the very beginning, this is a lot to take in. It's a big deal. But we do invite everyone's comments. Hey, whether we invite you or not, you're going to share them with us, right?
That's right. They're supposed to.
And also Norma West, who is president of our DNA. I don't know that Ms. West is here. She is. And Ms. West, we appreciate you so much. And it's good to see you out and about. Thank you. At this time, I do want to bring up something that's on my report, but I want to bring it up to this moment because I don't want to hold these gentlemen. We have some gentlemen with us representing Atmos Energy, and we are so grateful to our area manager, Kawan McLean. Mr. McLean, if you would stand up. And then also next to him, we have Mr. Greg Williamson, and we also have Mr. David Skinner. And we have had a series of meetings about Morgantown Road. And gentlemen, you don't have to remain standing. I want everyone to see you. We actually had a very good meeting on Friday, another meeting this morning at 10 o'clock, and they will be at a meeting with us also with some representatives of both city and county this afternoon discussing Morgantown Road. Everyone has been concerned about the progress on Morgantown Road. And if you read the paper, you heard the Board of Supervisors meeting last Monday, there are some challenges. Number one challenge is that we haven't even gotten to the next phase yet, and we are encountering a lot of underground utilities, and dealing with those challenges has been difficult. Mr. Bill Jones with Dozer Construction, the contractor for the project, has been very helpful, and we have had a number of conversations. And we were able to establish a really great communication between Friday and today between Dozier and also Atmos. And I want to thank Atmos for stepping forward to say, look, we want to be good community partners. You always have been good community partners. From day one, I've had Mr. McLean on speed dial, and he's had me. And we really appreciate that relationship, Mr. McLean. We, I believe, have just this morning established a really good plan on making sure that any remaining underground gas lines are properly detected and worked around. In addition to that, we understand that Dozier is now working very well with Natchez Waterworks, with the Adams County Water Association, and we also soon have a meeting where we are going to bring them together with AT&T and with Entergy. You know, we have always said that the key to everything is teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work, but communication is also essential to good teamwork. And we are making sure that that communication is happening. We've had good conversation already, a meeting last week with Scott Slover, the county board attorney, but also we've had conversations with Supervisor Warren Gaines and also Supervisor Ricky Gray. Also, Alderman Ben Davis has been very much involved, being that this is in his ward. I want to say that we are going to deal with the underground utilities. It's just like any project. Sometimes you really don't know exactly what's there until you see what's there. And in this case, it has been quite eye-opening. We knew this would be a major project. I want to remind the public that this is a project that's been in the works trying to be funded for over 20 years. We have successfully brought in several millions of dollars, 2.4 in federal money, about 2 million counting ARPA money, city and county putting in money, and we're still needing more money. We're going to end up spending more on this Morgantown Road project, it looks like, than we spent on the entirety of repaving over 50 streets last year in the city of Natchez. I know that's hard to believe, but it's because it is such an intricate project. And it's not that we're repaving the whole road. In fact, the city portion is only half a mile. And then the county portion goes a distance beyond that. But there is so much work because of the narrowness of the road, the narrowness of easements, and also the amount of utilities that are in that area. We're going to get it done. I know everyone's asking, well, the county applied for a CAP loan, which is through the Mississippi Development Authority, and they were denied. That is true, and the newspaper reported that quite well last week. Generally, CAP loans are for projects tied to economic development, but I want everyone to be assured we already have a Plan B, and that is a USDA loan. We've already started the process of applying for that loan, but also we'd rather not have that loan if we could get the funding through the Mississippi legislature. And so we are working with the county, even though we've already made our ask for drainage, for the U.S. Colored Troops Monument, for other projects. This quickly is becoming a priority for both the city and the county. The deadline for putting in funding requests is not for another couple weeks. And so we are working with key members of the legislature, both House and Senate. We will have more to report on the progress on Morgantown Road. We hope soon. I think bottom line, we want to thank our community partners. We want to thank Atmos for making sure that things aren't miscommunicated and that we are all on the same page. And being that this is a major project, we need the cooperation of everyone. We also, I think in closing, want to apologize to the residents and citizens who utilize this roadway so often, and especially those who live out there. We know that this has been a major imposition, but it is our hope that this project that went from zero funding 5 years ago to almost fully funding at the moment, we're still about, I'd say, 25% short. And in terms of millions, that could be a lot, but don't give up on us. And we're never going to give up on this project. Thank you. Any questions on that report or comments before we move on?
The only comment I have.
Yes, Alderman Frazier,
Go
you're
ahead,
recognized.
Sarah. Go on, you got your hand up. Go ahead on.
I don't.
You're recognized, Alderman Frazier.
Only comment I got, we as the Board of Aldermen and the supervisor, we owe this to our citizens. This is something that we need to, we, like you said, we are going to get this done because it's just something we owe to the citizens of the county. It's like I said, this has been a 20-year project, ongoing project. It's been before you came in office, anybody on this board. So as a county and a city, we're gonna get this done before our term is up, or before this year, if possible. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Frazier.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Alderwoman
I
Irving?
just want to say, being the raise grant, is it possible that we could possibly use any of that funding? I'm just asking the question.
That's a fair question, but no, the raise grant is specific to the map and streets that were designated on our application.
Okay,
And it would be illegal for us to go beyond that description and
Okay.
utilizing those race grant
Okay.
funds. Any further discussion? Again, thank you, gentlemen, and we'll see you this afternoon. And I know that you're on your way out now to be in the field with Dozier and taking a look at those precise locations. And Ms. McLean, thank you always for being there when we need you. Thank you. We will move on. Our next item on our agenda is the presentation of a grant dealing with a cemetery project. And on behalf of the Natchez Cemetery Association, we actually are so grateful to have Liz D'Antone with us to present this great and exciting project.
Thank you. On the agenda, it's indicated as approval to apply for certified local government grant for cemetery building project. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Liz D'Antone. I'm honored to serve on the board of directors for the Natchez City Cemetery Association. And we have the opportunity to apply for a grant called the Certified Local Government Grant, which goes through Mississippi Department of Archives and History. And the purpose of that grant is for grassroots efforts in preservation. And this money is made available because Natchez has chosen and continues to make the effort to maintain good standing as a certified local government in the state of Mississippi. Okay, so the city itself has benefited from this by using the same grant for projects such as refinishing the bottom of the fountain in Memorial Park, and also re-roofing the trolley stop on Cemetery Road, both of those projects being historic projects. So the Natchez City Cemetery Association desires to preserve and restore the 2 historic structures in the cemetery. I'm not quite certain what resources you have in your board packet. I have a small summary as well as the full grant application, which I presented to Mayor Gibson in a meeting last week. These 2 structures, the shelter house was built in 1914 by a very well-known architect. Nationally, the maintenance barn was built in the 1920s. Both of these structures are National Register listed properties and also designated Mississippi Historic Landmarks. As I mentioned, this grant is a program. It is a joint program of state and federal funding in a partnership, and it is the administration is the National Park Service and the State Historic Preservation Office. All of my exposure is through MDAH with the State Historic Preservation Office. Our proposal includes a phase 1 professional assessment of the shelter house and also the maintenance barn. This would allow us to be able to project into the future what these buildings will need for, in the case of the shelter house, historic restoration and preservation plus modernization, and in the case of the maintenance barn, stabilization and securing that historic structure. As you're aware, the association benefited from a very generous private donation that allowed us to build a new maintenance barn. So the historic maintenance barn is now simply being used for storage and has the potential for reuse in the future. However, it's considered to be a building that is at risk. So for an amount of total grant request, $10,400, which we are asking for no money from the city. The match is a 50-50 match, and the Cemetery Association would provide the necessary match, and the grant funding would be the same amount. Because the city status allows us to do this, this is technically a grant application that the mayor has to sign. And in addition to working with the city, we would be working with the Historic Natchez Foundation because they have done this same process on many other grants that have benefited the city. So if the funding is approved for this project, we would know by May. Work would get started, and then the professional assessment, which includes architectural measured drawings, concepts and schematic design about what is needed to bring the building into modernization or stabilization, and also in the case of the shelter house, a topographic survey. Because the maintenance barn is not a now project, we don't have a use for that. We're not asking for a topographic survey to be a part of this grant proposal. So in summary, we would appreciate your support to allow the approval of this and then the submittal in February, and possibly when those monies are approved, that the Historic Natchez Foundation and the Cemetery Association can take this first and important step to move forward on preservation and restoration of some of these important cemetery buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Antone. That's a great presentation. I think you covered every detail. We will now entertain a motion, and Alderwoman Hall is making that motion.
Second.
And the second, we have Alderwoman Smith making that second. So now discussion.
Very bitty.
Okay. We'll call for the question.
Call.
We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I look forward to successfully being granted this approval of the grant by the state and then keeping you informed.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Byrne. Thank you. Please share all of our thanks also with all of the friends and association members, board members. What you do, so many are here. It means so much to us. And also congratulations on what a great Angels on the Bluff that we all enjoyed. That was only a couple months ago. I know it seems like it was a long time ago. We now will move to the next item, and that is our department director's reports. And Ms. Tawana Williams, I'm so proud of you and Lakeisha and all that you're doing for workforce development. I know you've got some great things to report
I
today.
do. Good morning, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. I'm gonna try and follow, since I have more items than usual, I'm gonna try and follow the agenda. First item, I am asking for approval for Lakeisha Rogers and myself to attend the MML conference, July 20th through the 23rd, 2025.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Frazier, seconded by Alderwoman Irving. Discussion. We'll call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next item.
Thank you. The next item is approval for Lakeisha Rogers to attend the 2025 Leadership Natchez, that is, of course, sponsored by our Chamber of Commerce.
Motion
Second.
made by Alderwoman Hall, seconded by Alderman Frazier. Discussion. We'll call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, motion carries. I got a little distracted there. Alderman Frazier, you did second that, did you not?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The next item is Ms. Williams.
Thank you. So I believe you all
Oh,
have.
yes, let the
Okay.
minutes show that Alderman Davis has joined the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Alderman. Back to you, Ms. Williams.
Yes, so the building trades program is, recruitment is underway. And I'm sure you guys have received lots of emails from us, and we will continue to do that to make sure that you see our emails and what we're doing in workforce development. And so this program starts, and I'll get to that, I'll get in depth in the workforce development update, but we have to have an electrical instructor for this building trades program that starts on March 3rd. And so I'm asking today for the board to approve the compensation, of course, pending our attorney's review. But I'm asking the board to approve the compensation of $31,200 for over the period of 10 months for Mr. Willie Ellis. He is a master electrician. He's retired from Natchez Adams School District. He has been approved by Build Mississippi, our partner in the Building Trades program, to be the instructor for this program. The classes that we have, of course, will run Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. until 12, and in the evenings, 5:30 until 8:30. So he'll actually be teaching both sessions. So that actually allows him 6 hours a day, Monday through Thursday, and of course, 2 hours of instructional time during the week. So I'm asking for approval of the compensation for Mr. Willie Ellis.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Alderman Davis, seconded by Alderwoman Irving. Discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Alderwoman Irving.
And I was just gonna ask you, asking for the budget. Is it in your budget?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes,
just making
ma'am.
sure. Okay.
Mhm.
I am so
I'm
excited
excited about it.
that we have electrical trades about to be taught here in Natchez again.
Yes.
That's a great step forward.
Yes, thank you.
Discussion, further discussion? We'll call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, motion carries. Next item.
Thank you. So the next item is for a Lowe's Hometown Foundation grant. And so what it is we, the city of Natchez, would actually recommend for Seeds of Change Foundation, make sure I got it right, Seeds of Change Foundation to receive a roof through this Hometown Foundation grant. So it's not a grant, whereas I can apply for workforce for myself. The city has to recommend a nonprofit and a nonprofit organization work, actually. We have to approve their work. What Miss Carolyn, Dr. Carolyn Myers, what she's proposing to do, we would like to put a new roof on her house. It's a shelter, actually, mental health shelter. We want to put a roof on it, a handicap ramp at the side entrance, painting and some minor repairs to the ceiling and the kitchen. A few windows, she says, need to be replaced. And it's approximately going to be $60,000. Myself and Debbie Hudson, Germany, is working on this project to ensure that we get it in by February the 18th for her, if you guys approve it.
I'll entertain a motion. I'll entertain a motion. We need a motion to apply for this grant. The grant is a Lowe's hometown grant, and it will allow, as we have discussed, we have needs in our community. Dr. Myers has a property that has been approved by the city several years ago for the help of those who suffer from mental illness, and it is in need of a roof, and this is a means of getting that support. This actually came up recently when we were asked to do more, to help with our homeless situation. This is not a homeless shelter by any means, but this is a facility that will help with those who are suffering from mental needs. And we need in order to apply for this grant, we need a motion.
Yes. It's due February the 18th. It's not an application that's very cumbersome at all. However, we do have the need in our community, and it has to be made by nonprofit.
It's over there.
I want to be able to speak,
It's
Mr.
over
Mayor.
off of Woodlawn.
I
Well,
need to-
we can't entertain any conversation until we have a
Well,
motion.
get a motion.
Is this going to die for lack of a
It
motion?
has died. I mean, if you look at it, it's been said a couple seconds, it's dead. It's
No
dead.
one's making the motion.
It's dead.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we will have to provide more information on that.
Okay.
Grant, I'm sorry, but thank you, Ms. Williams.
You are
Next
very
item.
Next item, workforce development update. So the Miss Lou Coding Academy ribbon cutting ceremony is also very, very exciting. And it is going to happen on February the 18th. We had to push the date back. Originally, it was going to be in January. So January actually had a couple of our activities to be pushed back in workforce development. It's going to be held February 18th at 11 a.m. on the campus of Colin Community College in the multi-purpose room. So far, when we checked on yesterday, Bob Busek was checking in with Lakeisha and I. We had 42 RSVPs already. And so we know that it's going to be an exciting day where people are they're all excited. All our partners have received so much information about what this means for our area. I mean, the whole artificial intelligence and coding idea of things, it really hadn't, captured the Miss Lou, but I think we're getting ready to take it by storm. I think we're getting ready to do something great. Another good thing is we, of course, right now we're in the first cohort, meaning January through June. That's the first cohort of students. The second cohort is going to run July through December. But in the interim, we are introducing in the middle of February a 3-month option for prerequisite types of studies for people who would like to attend the 6-month Coding Academy, but just aren't sure if they'll be able to do well. We're going to introduce a 3-month prerequisite option to the 6-month Coding Academy. And we're also introducing that option to K through 12 students and to our employers to upskill them. So we believe we'll get some good numbers from that as well.
Sounds great.
That's great.
Next item for workforce development, the hospitality and tourism employee roundtable discussion will be conducted on February the 20th from 1:30 until 3:30 at the convention center. The roundtable will focus on local hospitality and tourism issues and opportunities from the practitioner's viewpoint. So far, we have confirmed 8 panelists. We'll have 8 to 10 panelists. We're doing this in collaboration with Colin Community College. If you guys remember, there was a hospitality program there that no longer exists. But our mayor have talked to us in depth about how important it is to get the hospitality industry back involved in a way where we are certainly upscaling that particular population. We don't have enough persons working in hospitality. However, we know that we have good funding coming in for tourism, but we don't have enough workers. So we're going to be talking to the frontliners, their practitioners, and we're going to separate the discussion into 2 different panels. We'll have a panel focused solely on hospitality and a panel focused solely on tourism. However, we know there are overlap. So that's going to be a great discussion on February the 20th. Just to let you guys know who our panelists are, we have Lindsay Gilbert with Visit Natchez, Roscoe Barnes with Visit Natchez, Sarah Lindsay Lockhoff, Lance Harris, Betty Jo Harris, Roya Hill, Jarita Frazier, and Jenny Gatto. Lynn Jenkins is going to be our moderator. Okay. Yes.
Yes, Alderwoman Irving.
Are any of those members of the
Like NCPC and
Challenge Roots organization? And the reason why I'm asking because
Chandler, no.
Natchez. And the reason why I'm asking because he had a lot of students that were involved, and those were high school students that were interested in hospitality. That may be something you could consider. Speak with him.
Okay, I will.
Because they did earn. I can't think the term that I need to say now, but they did earn a certification. When they were interested, those high school students.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I was not aware.
And this was just about maybe 5 years ago.
Okay. Well, yeah, he might want to participate with us. Okay. Well, he normally participates anyway, though, in the employee roundtable. So we anticipated him being there. And I think they did RSVP though.
Okay.
That's
okay.
a good point.
Next item is we have the newly established Workforce Advisory Committee. We're having our first meeting to be conducted on February the 27th. It consists of 15 government, community, and industry partners who will assist us in informing us of workforce development ideas and best practices that we may be able to implement in the Miss Lou. Back to the building trades electrical program. So again, it begins March 3rd and it's going to continue through December 30th. It is 5 8-week sessions.
We're going to start with core. That's the introduction to electrical. We'll do that for 8 weeks. Then we'll go to electrical level 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's going to end again in December. The thing about it, we really are seeking more funding because we really want to run 2 cohorts at one time. We are actually running 2 cohorts. So I'm going to say 4 cohorts at one time. We want to be able to run an additional morning and evening class. So far, we just really put this information out and we already have 10 persons signed up. We know that we're going to fill these classes up. And we partner with Colin, who's been so generous to give us space to conduct this program. We're introducing it to their HVAC, their welding, and their automation and control students. So they'll be able to actually attend in the evening for free.
That's awesome.
So it's going to upskill
That's
them
awesome.
as well. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep. So we're excited about it.
Alderwoman Irving, you're
Thank
recognized.
you, Mayor. How we're advertising, because I'm excited just hearing
Okay.
the good news. It just needs to
I
be,
am too.
it just needs to be out there. I
Yes,
mean,
ma'am.
both radio stations advertising this,
Mhm.
different the schools. They
Yes.
need to have this.
Yes.
It needs to be in our library. It needs to be in our banks. It needs to be
Yes.
everywhere where people can see what we're offering here. 'Cause
Yes,
this is
ma'am.
a skill of a lifetime that you can get
Yes, ma'am.
that will have a very successful income, or be able to provide for you yourself and your family.
Right.
So those skills, they're very much needed.
We are going to be putting out flyers this week and next week. It started on the radio yesterday. And so, of course, it's on Facebook. It's been shared quite a few times, 63 so far, over 5,000 views, 2,700 plus impressions. So people are really excited about it. And we know that it's going to be great. We have an excellent master electrician. His name is actually Reverend Willie Ellis. So I know he's going to do some good mentoring. So we're excited about that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we'll make sure that it gets out, of course, across Concordia Parish as well.
Yes.
The next item, which we just came up with this not too far ago, a couple of weeks, we're having a first responder career fair, which will be held on March 6th at the Civic Center from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. We're doing this in collaboration with the City of Natchez Human Resource Department, Ms. Caroline Deason, and also with Colin Community College, Wynn Job Center, and our career coaches. And the purpose of the fair is to expose the general public to opportunities and benefits of becoming a first responder, such as fireman, police, and EMT paramedic. Another item is the second annual Miss Lou Career and Resource Fair will be conducted on April 3rd from 9 a.m. until 1 at the Natchez Convention Center. This year, we're providing resume creation on site, and we're going to be working with Wynn Job Center and Jarita Frazier's facility to do that. And we're also going to be working with them to provide more job readiness skills, such as interviewing skills, dress for success. Of course, they have that closing closet over there. We're almost wanting to have a closing closet on site. And just in case you don't come in just right, we want to take you around the corner. I don't know, that may be offensive. But we thought about it.
Our universities do it. If they are going and setting up for an interview, they have the closet on hand. So that's food for thought.
We want
You
them
may
to be
want
successful.
take that from there.
Mm-hmm. But we're talking about it. We're going to see how that works. I've also just spoken with Mr. Lewis Davis at Natchez Transit. We know that being able to just get to job fair sometimes is difficult. And so we're talking about how Natchez Transit may be able to assist us in being able to get some persons there who would like to be at the job fair. We also are having the Miss Lou Governor's Job Fair Network to be held on September 18th. It's our 5th annual Miss Lou Governor's Job Fair Network, and it's going to be conducted at the Natchez Convention Center on September the 18th from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. Also, I wanted to share that we'll be working with our employers later in the year to conduct our first virtual job fair. We have not yet gotten to it. Our actual physical job fairs have been very successful, but we want to introduce the concept of the virtual job fair to our area. And just a couple of things, we continue to welcome new partners to work with Natchez Workforce. We're excited about our newest potential partner, Drax. We've already had a couple of great meetings with them, and we're planning to meet with them, I believe, tomorrow. And then they are also coming to the ribbon cutting. They're excited about the work that we're doing. It's a wood pellet manufacturing facility in Gloucester, and they believe that some of the programming that we're doing can really benefit them and their employees. Again, the radio announcements begin this week to advertise the many activities that we're doing in workforce development. They're also certainly highlighting to visit natchezworkforce.com because all the information I'm sharing with you all is on workforce.com. And again, our Facebook page is continuing to grow. We currently have more than 1,600 followers. And that concludes my report.
I thank you so much, Ms. Williams. Thank you for the great work you're doing. Also, everyone may have noticed my message that we put out last week about our Natchez Flight Training Academy that is producing between 4 and 5 new pilots a week. And they have people coming from as far as the United Kingdom and the Caribbean for this. In fact, to date, they have now graduated over 200 pilots. They have 6 planes, 7 instructors, and this program is meeting a need in not only our country but beyond to address the pilot shortage. If you can't find something to do and further your career and yourself in Natchez, then you're just not looking in the right place.
That's right.
There's plenty to do, and I thank you for your leadership. We couldn't be more proud.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to our next item, and that is Mr. James Johnson, Community Development. Afternoon.
I did provide a draft report to you the other day in your packets, but I have added an item or two since that time. Summary deductive change order number 1 for 1051 Martins Lane Emergency Watershed Program with funding from NRCS. Staff, myself and Mr. Dollar, in concurrence with our consulting engineer, Wakecaster Dungan, is requesting a motion to approve summary change order number 1, reducing the contract from $90,257.50 to $64,108, a reduction of $26,149.50. Work has been completed and closeout documents will be submitted to NRCS in the coming days.
What's that?
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been made by Alderman Frazier, seconded by Alderwoman Irving. Discussion. We will call for the question. We will proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next item.
Forks of the Road quitclaim deed. In May 2015, Charter Consulting Limited, doing business as Brandywine Manor LLC, donated parcels 26 and 28, Group A, sheet number 41-116 to the city of Natchez, consisting of 77,691 square feet or 1.78 acres, as part of the Forks of the Road historical site that is being held by the city of Natchez to later donate to the National Park Service for future development. At the same time, a second adjacent parcel number 41-116-26 and 41-116-28 should have been donated to the city of Natchez, but mistakenly was not. Staff, in concert with City Attorney Jack Lazarus, Clarence Chapman, and Stonehurst Arms LLC, Stonehurst Arms 2 LLC, is requesting a motion to allow the city of Natchez to accept this parcel of land by quitclaim deed to correct this just discovered error, knowing it was the intent of Mr. Chapman to donate this parcel to the city of Natchez in May 2015. Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Frazier, seconded by Alderwoman Irving. Discussion.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Frazier, you're recognized.
James, I'm glad that you I thank you for catching it, that you caught this because it's very important, not just to the city, also to the National Park Service.
And our raised grant.
I would hate for us to start doing some work and come to find out we didn't own the property and we couldn't. Now we can go forward with the forks of the road. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Alderman Frazier. Alderwoman Irving.
And I was just gonna ask, you're speaking of the area in red.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the driveway going in?
It is
that what
right
that
there
is?
next to it. It is, but we're not being deeded it. No, ma'am.
Okay.
Just the part, just the section in red. And that is actually what Mr. Chapman provided. He and I had numerous conversations and we triple checked to make sure it had not been deeded.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries.
And I have added 2 more items. Change order number 4, Duncan Park Golf Pro Shop renovation, phase 1. Staff, in concert with consulting architect Belinda Stewart Architects, is requesting a motion to approve change order number 1, totaling $569.86 that consists of the following work activities: changes in men's and women's restroom wall tile, men's and women's restroom floor tile, lobby floor tile, LVT, etc. Credit for electrical conduit savings, reframe lobby ceiling to work around hidden conduit of steel structure, credit to use PEX instead of copper piping for interior water line, labor materials to demolish, repour sidewalk, extra pipe and fittings for water line, adding, refitting electrical panels. 2, in pro shop electrical room, reconfiguring wiring, etc. In addition, the city's consulting architect is requesting that the contractor be given an additional 19 calendar days to March 29th for the new substantial completion date. Pleasure of the board.
Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderwoman Smith, seconded by Alderman Maroney. Discussion.
Yes,
Alderman Frazier, you're recognized.
James, per conversation that we had, this is on the Duncan Park. That's the Duncan Park Golf Shop.
Yes, sir.
Per our conversation earlier yesterday, these change orders, we're spending a lot of money, and per our conversation, and I'm kind of like, that's a lot of money to be spending on remodeling. We got a lot of old buildings, and I understand the historical significance of some of these buildings and stuff, but we done spent almost $1 million remodeling that place down there.
Well, the contract is just over $1 million. I mean, that's what we have under contract. We haven't spent that much just yet, but it is under contract, yes.
This is, and like I said, I'm not trying to throw any shade on anybody on the board or anybody in that, but for us to spend $1 million, and this is just my thought, for us to spend $1 million on a building that was built in 1941, somewhere in that area, I think we'd have been more going and building a brand new complex down there. And we could have had a state-of-the-art building. That like I said, that's just me. That's just my thought. It's spending the taxpayer money. We could have spent the taxpayer money on something like that. So that's just my comment, Mr. Mayor. Like I said, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, anybody on the board, anything, but it's a lot of stuff that I see we should have. For instance, like the youth center, we should spend $1 million over there. It's just me. We should have built a new building. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Frazier. Further discussion? We'll call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Mr. Johnson, next item.
2022 general supply bids. At the request of Mr. Dollar, staff is requesting a motion to advertise for general supply bids for the period April 1st, 2025 through March 30th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderwoman Irving and discussion, and seconded by Alderman Davis. Discussion. We'll call for a question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, I will use this as an opportunity to explain why Mr. Dollar is not here. This will take care of another item on my report, and that is an update on Homachita Street and Canal Street. At this very moment, Mr. Dollar, he was hoping he would make the meeting, but he is tied up working with our engineers, Volkert Engineering and APAC on discussions. Actually, they're working together to find a better way forward for the completion of the Homachita and Canal Street projects. There has been a lot of discussion about as we said 2 weeks ago, the 11-page report that the engineers provided regarding a lot of details pertaining to both projects, both streets, dealing with areas that needed to be re-milled and new asphalt applied, areas that had not been completed. And there's always going to be some discussion and some disagreement over what the engineer says should be done and what the contractor says they are willing to do. There are many who have reached out to me with concern on this over the last couple of weeks since our last report. And I can share with the public, I don't believe there's anyone more concerned than this mayor and this board. We want this project finished soon and finished correctly. There have been those who have said, well, just go ahead and rebid the project and get someone else. Well, that could then take another 60 days. And then we roll the dice whether or not we get a bid that comes in under budget, our own budget. By law, we have to be at the budgeted amount, the money that's there. If the money is there and we get a higher, bid, we have to reject the bid, start all over again. Then you have another 60 days. We're not going to get into that rebidding, stretching this out. So bear with us. We're hoping that the engineers, along with the contractor, APAC, and Mr. Dollar, will have a great solution for us very soon. APAC has admitted that there was a faulty mix used. We've already reported that. They're working with us. The contractors have admitted there are areas where they are going to have to redo the project, but getting it totally understood and agreed to is where we are right now. Bear with us. We're meeting a lot on this, and in fact, I'll be talking to the engineers and Mr. Dollar this afternoon to see just where we are. As soon as we have that plan forward, we will share it, and there is no one more anxious to share that than me. And that's our report. Yes, Alderman Frazier, you're
you have so much on your plate that you forgot that you gave us this report last board meeting.
This is an update since last meeting. We've had, I was hoping, no, Alderman Frazier, I fully remember that report. What I was hoping is that I'd be able to tell you that it was getting done. Obviously, nothing's happened since I last reported to you 2 weeks ago, other than they have not reached an agreement yet. Okay. And my goal is just to keep the public fully aware, because there is not a day or a night that I don't get a phone call or a text or even someone coming by the office. Now, I don't know about y'all, but that has been my life for the last couple of weeks, and we're ready to move on. But you are right in this. I've got a lot on my plate, but I signed up for it, and I'm enjoying it. We'll now, with that said, Mr. Dollar's not here. I want to report on this wonderful bit of news. It's under my report, but what I'm trying to do is get my report out of the way, and then I won't have one. Mr. Dollar, and I think I mentioned to you previously, had a great conversation with the engineer, Stan Tech. At our last meeting, I told you we were waiting on a final report on their inspection of the Canal Street Bridge. Well, we received that report. We had not only a great conversation with them, but then the state aid engineer, Harry Lee James. And as of yesterday evening, we have been given an all clear on the Canal Street Bridge. What this means is that the posting of a 5-ton weight limit is about to be removed. And also what this means is that tour buses, emergency vehicles, school buses, and other vehicles that need to use that bridge can now resume using it. However, we are not taking the 5-ton sign down until we have another sign to take its place. And that sign will say, no 18-wheelers. The bridge has not only had these restrictions removed, it has been said that if we can keep the 18-wheelers off of it, we have a 5-year life to allow us time to raise the funds to replace the bridge, which will have to be done. We're already asking for those funds. We made a trip to Washington the very early part of January to ask for help with that project. That will be an $8 million project. And so we want to safeguard this bridge. That is already a no truck route, but we are about to consider a special ordinance that will allow the city to impose a $1,000 fine to every 18-wheeler caught using that bridge. This was going to be part of Justin Dollar's report. I put it on mine because I wasn't sure he would be here. But at this point, since we've already given this report, Mr. Attorney, I'd like to go ahead and take this off your list. Could you please present the proposed ordinance that would allow us to impose a $1,000 fine for 18-wheelers? And let's go ahead and get that approved so that the clock for that ordinance to become effective may begin.
Mr. Mayor, I got a question.
Yes, Alderwoman Irving.
Has it been advertised that 18-wheelers are not to go on the
It's
streets?
already a no truck route.
Okay, so that's gonna remain there.
This ordinance will have to pass a certain amount of time before it comes into effect.
Okay,
During that time, we are asking our police to write warnings. When the ordinance becomes effective, right now, we can ticket them for violating a no truck zone. But once this ordinance comes into effect, we can ticket them not only for violating a no truck zone, but we can also impose a $1,000 fine for crossing that bridge.
I guess my concern is
Yes.
this, you know, I travel.
I'm sorry. Well, we haven't had them. I was just giving a report. I'm answering questions on the report. We'll have the motion in just a minute. We're waiting on Mr. Lazarus. Alderwoman Irving, back
We
to
do
you.
have trucks that are not from the local area that are traveling through as well.
Mhm.
So is that in the GPS? I mean, because sometimes you go through.
We don't
there-
control GPS, and we'll discuss that when we get into the
Well,
ordinance.
that needs to
And
be
we'll talk about
considered.
that in just a moment. Alderman Davis?
I'm for the ordinance, but the majority of the drivers that be turning down there, they're not from Natchez.
Yes, and we'll discuss that in just a moment.
And we're
Um,
gonna need more signage for them.
We'll discuss that in just a moment. Have you got the ordinance ready to present?
I don't have it, Mr. Mayor.
I thought we had it in our packets. It's very important that we get this done today. And I know we have a draft ordinance. We're going to come back to this.
Okay.
We'll come back to it when we have somehow the ordinance was not included in your packets, but we do have it. I'm going to make this statement though. It is not the city's job to monitor GPS. It is the city's job to enforce our laws. We will make sure. We had for months big signs that provided to us by MDOT that said in big flashing detail, no truck route. And we still had trucks violating that every day. We're going to make sure we have new no truck route signs. We're going to make sure we have a new sign up as soon as possible, no 18-wheelers. But at the minute we take the 5-ton sign down, that sign's going up. It will not indicate the fine until the fine becomes effective. But this is what I'm going to say. If we have any trucking companies that are sending their drivers through Natchez and crossing that bridge illegally and coming through a no truck route illegally, then they need to be put on notice. Their drivers will be given tickets. If you need to go to whatever efforts to correct your GPS systems and to correct your driver instructions, that's on you. It's not on the city. But this is what's on the city. We just spent $660,000 of money out of our reserves that we did not have budgeted repairing that bridge. We are now going to write tickets. And folks, 18-wheelers who cross that bridge, be on notice. We can't wait to write you a ticket. That $1,000 will come in handy. We might have to just put it in a reserve account to help when we finally replace the bridge. And I'm not joking about this. We've already had a conversation with Chief Green. The minute we found out the restrictions were being lifted, I made 2 calls. I made a call to Chief Arrington to let him know that emergency vehicles could cross the bridge. And then I called Chief Green and said, get ready to write tickets as soon as all of this takes place. We will bring this up a little later when we have the ordinance. Right now, we're going to move forward with Jody Rudder and his report.
Because like I say, that happens. Everywhere GPS is not updated.
Mayor and Board.
Good afternoon.
I put four.
Good
quotes-
afternoon.
Good afternoon. I put four quotes in your box for two jobs. One being for a new evaporator coil and new condenser for the walk-in cooler at the convention center. One quote is from Thorpe Sheet Metal for $8,450. The other is from Clements Heating and Cooling for $8,941. I'm asking that you accept the low bid of $8,450 from Thorpe Sheet Metal. What's your
So moved.
pleasure?
Motion has been made by Alderwoman Smith, seconded by Alderman Davis. Discussion? We'll call the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, motion carries. Next
Yep.
item, Mr. Rutter.
The other two quotes are for replacing the chill water pump at the Armstrong Library. One quote is from Terry Service for $9,151.98. The other is from McInvale Heating and Air for $11,015.21. I'm asking that you accept a low bid of $9,151.98 from Terry Service. What's your pleasure?
So moved.
Pleasure of the board. Motion made by Alderwoman Smith, seconded by Alderman Maroney. Discussion. We'll call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rutter, I also want to thank you for getting a new pigeon guard system installed at the depot. It is helping. However, just yesterday, we understand that some very industrious pigeons have already removed some of it, and it's got to be reapplied. And we also understand that that new system is being applied here at City Council Chamber as soon as possible. We need it up yesterday because if you didn't notice, and I apologize, it is a very unsightly appearance on the porch of this building. And we're going to take care of that as soon as we can because it's time that we look our best. So, Mr. Rutter, thank you for working on that. Thank you. Also, I want to say, Mr. Rutter, I had the pleasure of being at the New River Room, part of the depot project, just this weekend. It is absolutely beautiful. We will have an official ribbon cutting there soon, but we have more plans underway to address some rotten wood, areas that need painting on the facade, and also some landscape issues on the front, brightening it up. But just know, someone asked me just last week, when are y'all going to renovate the depot? Newsflash, we already have, and it is beautiful. Go see it. Thank you, Mr. Rutter. We're going to come back around to this ordinance. And what I understand is we need to present the ordinance. We need to pass the ordinance and then let the clock pass its appropriate time. Is there any public hearing required in the passage of this ordinance?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Well, at that time, I would like to entertain a motion for the approval of an ordinance that will impose the actual $1,000 fine to heavy tractor trailer trucks, commonly referred to as 18-wheelers, that in any event that they cross the Canal Street Bridge. Motion made by Alderwoman Hall. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Maroney. Mr. Attorney, I'm going to recognize you now to take us through this ordinance.
This ordinance that we're recommending be added to section 7489 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Natchez. This ordinance regards fines for overweight vehicles crossing Canal Street Bridge. Whereas the Canal Street Bridge is in a condition that requires the City of Natchez to limit the size and weight of vehicles using said bridge, and it is necessary to make regulations to prevent, discourage, and fine heavy trucks from using said bridge. And whereas it is necessary to provide that in the event any heavy tractor trailer truck, commonly referred to as an 18-wheeler, should cross Canal Street Bridge, that the law enforcement officers of the City of Natchez be authorized to issue citations to such overweight or oversized 18-wheeler vehicles to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare, including
imposing fines for such violation. Now therefore, be it ordained by the Board and of Aldermen and Mayor of the City of Natchez as follows. Section 1, it shall be unlawful for any heavy tractor-trailer 18-wheel vehicle to use, cross, or traverse or enter the Canal Street Bridge, Natchez, Mississippi. Section 2, any lawful officer of the City of Natchez may issue a citation to the driver and the owner of any such heavy tractor-trailer 18-wheel vehicle which uses, crosses, or traverses the Canal Street Bridge in Natchez, Mississippi. Section 3, the municipal court of the City of Natchez may impose a fine of not less than $1,000 for each such violation, and the municipal court is authorized to impound any vehicle violating this ordinance, all within the court's discretion. Emergency abatement. In the event that there is an imminent public safety hazard or immediate danger to the public safety and welfare, the chief of police may summarily close the Canal Street Bridge in order to protect the public. Signed by the mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Natchez and attested by the city clerk.
Thank you so much. We appreciate, Mr. Attorney, you're working on that. I want to reiterate, we're taking this very seriously. We just spent major funds to repair this bridge. We're going to make sure we get the life out of that bridge and keep it open for our tourists, our emergency vehicles, our tour buses, those that are able to cross the bridge. 18-wheelers, you're not allowed. Alderwoman Smith.
Can we work with MDOT on a sign plan for this? Because there are some ways that I think that can be help this.
We've already opened that discussion.
Okay.
We certainly have.
Ms. Mayor,
Yes,
I just
Alderwoman.
want to say that's what I was saying, because now I don't know about you, but I do listen to the news.
Yeah.
And if a GPS hadn't been updated, people have been driving off in a river, didn't even know it was there. And so that's what I'm saying. If they're coming from other areas coming to our town, we do need the signs out there.
Oh,
So-
we're getting the signs up. That was the very first thing I said. We're putting the signs up. But what I did say is it is not the city's responsibility to manage any GPS systems. Any trucking company, any delivery company, that's on them. It's not on us. Alderwoman Irving, is that the extent of your comments? Thank
That's
you.
the extent
Alderman
of the
Frazier,
comment.
you're recognized.
Mr. Attorney. Yes, sir. I'm reading this ordinance, and I'm just gonna be straight out honest. I think this ordinance is illegal. Simply because of the reason, these 18-wheelers, and I could be wrong, but I don't think so. This is for MDOT to enforce these kind of ordinance here. We have a note, we have a sign say, no truck. Okay, I understand we can write a ticket for truck violation. But for ordinance like this, for $1,000 for vehicle crossing 18-wheelers, like say sometime 18-wheelers get lost. This also incurs whereby the driver of the vehicle, this is a moving violation under state law. And in state law, once you get a moving violation, you're gonna fine somebody $1,000. What about these people see their license? This is their livelihood.
That's right.
This
That's
gonna
right.
affect these people's livelihood.
That's right.
And you're talking about $1,000 fine
That's right.
and affecting these people see their license. I don't think that we have a sign say no large vehicle. We can't afford that, but I don't think we can afford that. The only way we can enforce this is that the police officer call one of the MDOT people and let them look at the vehicle, see what they had to do. See if the vehicle too heavy, see if the vehicle in compliance. Because, some 18-wheelers might not be that heavy in violation of the, but like I say, Mr. Attorney, I think we need to look at this a little more close before we talk about passing it.
Because MDOT enforced the
Davis.
weight limit. You see the police enforce the violation of coming through, they deal with the weight limits.
Yeah.
We had the chief of police research this. This is the information that was provided to me. I understand that the city can impose and enforce speed limits. What's the difference between not having an 18-wheeler cross a bridge and imposing a speed limit.
If these
See?
citations are written on city ordinance tickets and not on the uniform traffic tickets, the city ordinance tickets, yes, we cannot impose weight limits. We can't write tickets for weight limits. MDOT has to be the one for that, but we can have a city ordinance that prohibits that, and we can write the tickets on the city ordinance.
But it's for violations.
I'm sorry, Alderman Frazier.
But it's
not for the weight.
Truck route violation, it's not for the weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
such
not
a
for the
fine,
weight.
$1,000, I don't think that's even the fine. If you're gonna do this, the fine shouldn't be $1,000. See, we sitting up there talking about paying these ordinances, but what about these people that from out of town and they CDL license? That's how these people make living. We ain't trying to kill nobody. We don't want nobody destroying our bridge. We spending money. That's exactly, Mr. Mayor. But these
There has to be some.
that's not a deterrent for people who.
I know that our police officers are reasonable, but I want to just say, we just spent $660,000 of taxpayer money on this bridge, and I want to make sure it lasts long enough for us to raise the money to replace this bridge. Because just a year ago, I'm the only one up here that knows what it feels like 4 days before Christmas to be told that you have 24 hours to close a bridge. I got that notice from Office of State Aid right before Christmas. I did not even inform our aldermen at first because I did not want to set off a panic. I immediately reached out to people I know. Within 24 hours, we had that decision changed from closing the bridge to keeping it open. Can you imagine how that would have crippled our city for the past year if that Canal Street Bridge, as the Office of State Aid first required, had been closed?
Call for the question.
No, I just want to make sure everyone knows how important this is. We will entertain a motion to, well, Alderman Frazier.
This is what I'm going to say, Mr. Mayor. In your own words, and you said this, and you just sit there and said that we'll try to pay for the bridge. I just said that. But last year, when we appointed the judge, you sit up there and told that we're not in the business for making money. City's not in the business. So
No.
That's what you
We
said.
are in the
not
business
for
of
making
passing
money.
laws and taking care of our taxpayers' dollars, and that is what we're doing today. We are passing a law and we're taking care
I
of
don't
our
think
taxpayers' dollars. The motion is on the
Sarah, I'm
floor.
not talking to you.
The motion is on the floor.
Because every time
We
I
have
say something, you want to cut me off.
Called the question. We will now proceed with a roll call vote. Alderwoman Hall. Aye. Alderman Frazier.
Nay.
Alderwoman Smith.
Aye.
Alderwoman Irving.
I'm gonna abstain.
Alderman Davis. Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you so much. We now will call on our chief, Cal Green, for her report.
But again, if it's not just.
I'm sorry, we have to have order. Chief Green, you are recognized.
Thank you. We are asking that we be allowed to apply for the 2025 Mississippi Office of Highway Safety Grant. This would be a continuation of the grant that we did receive in 2024. We thought that we had already done the paperwork for 2025, but we had not. So we're asking for permission to.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Davis and seconded by Alderwoman Irving. We'll call for the question.
Carl.
We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, Chief
Thank you.
Green. Thank you.
I have a question. I just want to ask about that.
We-
Would that,
The motion's ended. I'll allow the question.
I just wanted to ask, are we gonna have any kind of educational classes for members of the community, like a youth or adult ed class? Would that grant provide such?
No, this is
Citizenship
strictly
Academy or-
this is strictly for traffic enforcement.
Okay, all right,
For, seatbelt speeding, those types of violations.
okay, all right.
The very thing we've been talking about a lot in this meeting. We now will go to our city official reports. Alderwoman Hall, do you have a report today?
No, sir.
Okay, no report. Thank you, Alderwoman Hall. Alderman Frazier, do you have
Yes.
a report?
I have one quick report. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Ben Tucker of the Daughters of Zion Baptist Church. Mr. Tucker invited me out to be a guest. Well, I didn't know I was a guest speaker until I got there during Black History, in reference to Black History a month. The program was very excellent. They had praise dance. They had a young man there. I can't think his name right now. This gentleman played the violin, and he played a little you would call a little set that he did. And he played for the church. Come to find out, this young man, I think it's this week or last week, he was invited to play at Carnegie Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he was very inspired. And as I say, the program was excellent. And again, I want to thank Mr. Ben Tucker for inviting me and all the church members out there. That's the end of my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Yes, the young man, Devin, we're so proud of him, and he is at Carnegie Hall this week. Yeah. Thank you. Alderwoman Smith, your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly, I want to thank Tree Mississippi Association and Keep Mississippi Beautiful for the bulbs and trees that they had on the bluff and gave out to folks, and it was really nice. But I want to also mention it was in front of the depot, and then they had an open house for touring the north side of the depot that's now an event space, and it's really nice. So I encourage people to consider that when you're planning for an event. And the other thing that's on my radar that I know I've mentioned to the mayor, but I would like to see us get together with Public Works, the police department, and our Keep Natchez Beautiful on litter. We need a litter plan. It is out of control. Natchez and the highways look terrible. I don't know what else to say. People just litter in the parking lots of Walmart. They throw their stuff out of their car. It blows my mind that you don't care where you live. So if we could come up with that, and we did, and we set a higher fine, and is it 500 or 1,000? 500, and I'm hoping to see some of that coming to fruition as well with some tickets for people. And keep your litter out of the back of your trucks. We have a gazillion trucks in Natchez, and litter blows out of them every day. Thank you. I'll get off my soapbox.
I'm right up on that soapbox with you. Thank you, Alderwoman Smith. Alderwoman Irving, your report.
Well, I'll begin, just piggyback on what Alderwoman Carter Smith stated, that about cleanup. Maybe that's something we can do, break down the sections of the city, Alderwoman Smith, and that way we can do a designated cleanup day. Because I know we have lots of people that want to get in our communities and do just that. So that can be an incentive in some kind of way, along with keep our beautification committee to do that. So I think that'll be a great idea. I want to begin mine with sharing with the community that the Natchez Business and Civic League banquet will be held on March 7th, 2025 at the Natchez Convention Center. The time is 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. The tickets are $25 each. And if you'd like to purchase a ticket, I'm selling a ticket. So I hope to see you all there. Also, I want to share that Congressman Benny Thompson has a virtual town hall meeting this evening from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It is open to the public. He has shared that if we live in those that live in Congressional District 2, it would benefit you if you would join him in the virtual town hall meeting this evening. I do have it on my webpage. If you go to his Facebook page, you're able to see there. I think you have to register. So if you have any concerns, whether it's education, healthcare, all of those issues that are important to all of us, please attend the virtual town hall meeting. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Alderwoman Irving.
Thank
Alderman Davis.
I thought you were gonna be long.
No.
No, I don't have a report, but I just want to read it. When the kids put these in our boxes, just want to send a shout out to Dylan Graham, and I'm gonna read what he sent me. Say, dear Benjamin Davis, thank you so much for your service to our community as an alderman, my classmate, and I appreciate all you do. Wishing you well and a good year, Dylan Graham. Then he drew a picture of me and him on there. So he have a problem, and then I say, okay. I guess he's trying to make it look like me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but everybody got one in their box.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm a student.
That's great. That's great.
That
is
is
my
great.
report.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you. Alderman Maroney, you're recognized.
I want to reiterate what Sarah said. We've got to do better as citizens in this community. We've got to do better about litter. paying attention to what's blowing out of the back of pickup trucks and all that sort of stuff. We've got to clean up. However, Friday, February 28th, Crew of Phoenix Mardi Gras Parade is going to roll, and they're going to litter the streets of Natchez with Mardi Gras beads, moon pies, and doubloons, and who knows what else. So if you don't have any plans,
the meals into the streets.
start
If it goes in
start
the
planning
concrete,
for a Mardi Gras
you're gonna get
parade on
fined.
Friday, February 28th. We will roll at 6:30 p.m. Standard parade route. It'll roll up Franklin Street, cross Rankin, back down Main, down Canal, down Orleans, back to Broadway, and back down to the end. And I'm sure I'll have something to say about it in our next meeting as well.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman
That's it for
Maroney.
me.
If I could
Does
just-
that conclude your report? Okay.
That concludes my
Alderwoman Irving, back to you.
I just want to add to, last week, it may have been 2 weeks ago, but the Global Prep School, they had a spelling bee.
Yes.
And some of their students, one of the young men, he's a Davis, can't remember his first name, but they're doing such a great job.
They are.
They really are. And he won first place. And there were several of them, but he earned first place, the first grader did. And I'm like, I thought that was great based on the words that they had to learn.
It's a great thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We will now recognize the city clerk for her report.
First item I have is a request for approval of the first February 2025 claims docket.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion made by Alderwoman Smith. Second.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Maroney. Madam Clerk, I do want to make sure, is there anything in this claims docket that would personally benefit financially anyone related to a member of this board?
No, sir.
If you would please make that note in the minutes. We will now entertain either other discussion.
I do
Yes,
have some. And I
Alderwoman
know she
Irving.
put in our budget yesterday. I was out of town. I didn't get a chance to look at my packet until last night. And she put a note in there for us too. But I just want to bring this out. It's on page 19 and it's in reference to.
The motion, the motion has been made.
Okay.
Yes.
So I just want to.
Alderwoman Smith made the motion. All right, back to
Okay,
you.
It's just a concern of mine, and it's on page 19 on the claims docket.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at the two accounts. And Megan, are you on that page?
I am.
Okay, well, you look to see, should that be coming out of waste management?
I will get with Mr. Dollar and make sure that there was not an error and how that was.
I just
coded.
want that because I don't want us to not have enough in that account.
Right,
Because that's
no.
what we budget
And-
for our garbage pickup.
And that probably should have been the 200 account, but I will verify that that is how he wanted that coded. Of course, the departments code their invoices and send them in, but occasionally mistakes are made.
Okay, on page 26. And I thought our contingency fund is a fund that is for emergencies. So what I'm looking at, and I know one is a monthly payment that we do every month. Okay, the one up top on page 26. That's a monthly payment every month that we see that there. But in our contingency fund, I'm just thinking that should be
Right.
reserved
No,
for
that actually
emergency.
has its own line item. So
Yes.
that was an error.
Okay, and then when I go down and I look, do you see what I'm saying? All the others, those are not emergencies. You know, that's reserved money. That's what contingency is for. It's for
Right.
reserve.
Well, the contingencies are for unexpected expenses,
Yes.
not necessarily emergencies, but unexpected things
Disasters.
that come
or-
up that
Okay.
weren't previously budgeted.
Okay,
May not be an emergency situation, but just unbudgeted, unexpected
okay,
expenses.
okay.
But I will look and see what happened, why these went in that account.
Okay, and then on page 27, I know we have 12 items for appropriation, and I only see 3 listed here. When I go and check the budget
Not
status.
everything is paid monthly. Sometimes it's once a
Okay.
year. Sometimes it's quarterly. So those are not always going to show up every docket.
Okay, and then one other thing on that same page, I didn't know that the Natchez Cemetery Association appropriations had gone up. So we're increased their payment because it was 81,000 last year, and this year it's 99.
That was discussed during the budget
I,
and pointed out.
I wasn't aware of that.
That was discussed and approved in the budget.
Okay, I'm just looking at the difference, and I just wanted to see.
We approved it.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Alderwoman Irving.
Mhm.
Any other discussion? Any other questions? I do want to make this statement. From the very beginning, when I became mayor, the very first day, I was asked to sign a document for the computer system so that my signature would appear on checks electronically. I did not do that. And I have been very grateful to have the opportunity to sign the checks and look at the checks ever since I became your mayor. I want you to know that I continue to do that. I continue to do it. I think it's a very important thing. In fact, just this week, yesterday, when I signed the checks, there were a few that I asked particular people questions about. In fact, there was one that I actually flagged that we will discuss with our department heads. Not that it was anything wrong, but I'm always looking to see, is this really the best deal we can get? You know, we're in a time now where budgets are tight, and they're tight for people, for families all across this country, and right here in this community. We're doing the best we can to avoid raising taxes. We have not raised taxes this administration, and we want that to remain the case. So I want to just let everyone know, I'm looking at these checks even more than I was. And if it looks like an expense that you wouldn't make for your own household, and this is something we've discussed in our department head meetings and we'll continue to discuss. If it's something that you wouldn't spend that much money on for your house, don't put it on the claims docket to spend that much money on for the city. Make sure we're getting the best deal. Just one comment I wanted to make. We will now call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would like it to be recorded in the minutes that I vote on everything with the exception of the fire department, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Okay, next item is a request for approval of the 1st February 2025 mini claims docket.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion made by Alderwoman Irving, seconded by Alderwoman Smith. Discussion.
Copy the question.
Question's been called. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next item.
Okay, next item is a request for approval of the January 2025 personnel report.
What is the pleasure of the board?
So,
Motion
second.
made by Alderwoman Hall, seconded by Alderwoman Irving. Discussion.
No.
We will call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Okay, next item is a request for approval for the mayor to sign the lease purchase agreements for a new Toro Greensmaster Triflex mower from Jerry Pate Turf and Irrigation for the Duncan Park Golf Course. We did receive 3 quotes for this piece of equipment. One from Smith Turf and Irrigation for $86,239.59. One from Wesco Turf for $84,247.16. And one from Jerry Pate Turf and Irrigation for it was actually $69,150.56. The one that went out in the packet did include a universal groomer drive and brushes that we will not be purchasing. So you can deduct that amount from the quote you were provided.
And so the actual cost we're approving today is how much?
$69,150.56. These payments were included in the budget, anticipated, purchasing this equipment, and the availability and delivery is approximately 3 months out.
So
All
moved.
right, thank you. Motion has been made by Alderwoman Smith, seconded by Alderwoman Hall. We will have discussion.
Yeah.
Alderman Frazier.
You say how much
$69,150.56.
is from Jerry?
Jerry Pate, yes. There were a couple of items that were quoted on there that we will not need. the universal groomer drive, and the brushes that went with that.
Okay, because I'm looking at the reason, I'm looking at
Right,
77,000.
Right, so
So it's
the lower
really,
8,000 came off of it.
okay, I would appreciate it, the next time you let me get all three of them. I don't think-
actually did
I
not
didn't
get
get all three of them,
copies.
so,
I actually did not get copies of the other two until about 5 minutes before I walked across the street, so.
okay, well, in the future, just provide us with
Yeah.
a copy of all three. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Frazier. Any further discussion? We will, in that case, call the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, motion carries. Next item, Mr. Attorney, before we have you present this, I want to give some background.
Okay.
And always good to see you, Ms. Thelma. We have something exciting to share with you. Been keeping this to ourselves until we were ready to make the announcement. So this is a big announcement. You'll recall back in 2020, we started looking at a plan to raise Silver Street and to also have new docks built there at Silver Street. Silver Street had just flooded in 2019. It's amazing how things change. Here we are now in 2025, and we didn't move forward with our plan to raise Silver Street, all because we found Morgantown Road a more pressing situation, in addition to the repair of the Canal Street Bridge that we just discussed a little while ago that cost the city $660,000. So all that said, I know many people thought we were giving up on our plans to improve Silver Street, and that is not the case. We never quit. When we had American Cruise Lines here celebrating their sponsorship of our Christmas Village, and also, if you'll recall, we presented a key of the city at that event to Mr. Charlie Robertson, who is the CEO of American Cruise Lines. We then followed that up with a meeting at City Hall in the conference room where Mr. Robertson committed to the city. And Alderwoman Hall, you were there, I remember. And we were so excited. This was an early Christmas gift. He committed to build a dock and plans to begin building this dock immediately. And that dock would be a dock, possibly a $2 million dock, that will be capable of having two boats dock at the same time at that docking facility. And building that dock at Silver Street, at the Ferry Street Landing, where American Cruise Lines now for many years has been arriving in first-class style in Natchez. I must tell you, I will never forget that Friday when we got that news, and I've been holding this ever since. But we are now ready to proceed. Mr. Robertson is going to, and his company, American Cruise Lines, is going to get this dock done. They're going to get it done soon. And this dock is also going to include some improvements in that area of Silver Street. And it's going to be a great thing. It also is part of our strategy of moving forward to make Natchez not only the home port for these boats, if you'll recall, the Symphony and the American Serenade, but also eventually in years to come, a place where people can fly into Natchez overnight and then take their boat ride from Natchez rather than having to fly into New Orleans. So this is a win-win situation. It's also a win-win situation in that it now opens an opportunity for us to work with Viking to have them build the dock that they have long been wanting to build upriver at the Fulton Street ramp. Viking already has for a number of months been utilizing that facility, actually over a year. American Queen used to use that facility and no longer does, because American Queen obviously is no longer in business. And so we are looking forward to working with Viking on their plans to build a dock, wanting to see that dock built there. The leases that were signed with great fanfare, we were so excited back in 2021, really aren't the vehicles now to get all of this done. At that time, we were looking at American Cruise Lines and Viking accessing in the vicinity, both of them in Ferry Street. And we were going to have to raise Silver Street and do some major expansion there in order for it to accommodate both cruise lines. With that project not happening, it would be impossible for American Cruise Lines and Viking to both occupy the same area. Just simply impossible. And so only one dock will be able to be built there. And that dock is going to be the dock of American Cruise Lines. Just so happens that they have the primary lease and the primary placement at that location. The interest that Viking has, their lease is secondary. And so in order for us now to move forward, we are going to have to vacate that lease with Viking. And we have had a discussion as late as yesterday with Viking, letting them know that in making this step forward to allow construction to begin for ACL, we're now ready to work with them on the construction of a dock at Fulton Street. So, Mr. Attorney, with that said, I would like for you to present a resolution. But first of all, we're going to ask for a motion. I need Alderwoman Hall, you were there when we had this meeting with American Cruise Lines. And so Alderwoman Hall is making the motion for this resolution. Alderman Davis has now seconded that motion. And I'm going to ask the attorney to please read that resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderwoman.
This is a lease that was entered into on May the 11th, 2021. This is a resolution to terminate the lease agreement with Viking Mississippi LLC at Natchez Under the Hill. Whereas the city of Natchez, Mississippi entered into a lease agreement with Viking Mississippi LLC to use a portion of city-owned property located under the hill on Silver Street in Natchez. And whereas the lease agreement required Viking Mississippi LLC to immediately initiate any actions to evaluate, plan, design, permit, obtain necessary government approvals, and all other actions required to initiate construction of this project. And whereas the lease and development agreement further states that Viking further covenants to make commercially reasonable efforts to begin physical construction of a docking facility on the demised premises on or before 2 years from the commencement date of this lease. Commencement date is May 11th, 2021. More than 3 years have passed since the execution of the lease and development agreement. And whereas the lack of significant progress toward completion of the construction after more than 3 years constitutes a material breach of the contract. And whereas the agreement also requires Viking Mississippi to complete all improvements, and open the Viking facility for the business contemplated in this lease on or before 3 years from the commencement date of this lease. Viking Mississippi LLC has not completed construction and more than 3 years have passed since the commencement of the lease. Now therefore, be it resolved by the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Natchez, Mississippi, hereby elect to terminate the lease agreement with Viking Mississippi LLC and return the property to the use, dominion, and control of the city of Natchez, Mississippi, and direct the city attorney to notify Viking Mississippi of the termination of this lease agreement. Be it further resolved that the findings of fact and law be adopted herein. Mr. Mayor, we ask for a motion to approve this resolution.
Thank you. And we have already received that motion. And so we'll now open for discussion. Yes, Alderman Frazier.
We're vacating this lease, for lack of action.
Well, officially, yes,
Yes.
that is what the document states.
Okay.
Yes. But I want to say that we certainly are grateful to Viking. Their buses are in town right now delivering tourists to our destinations. And so this is no reflection on Viking at all. It is legally what must be done to end this agreement so that we can begin working with them now on a plan that we hope will result in a dock of their own at Fulton Street. Further discussion?
Question, Colin?
All right, the question has been called. We'll proceed to a vote. Alderwoman Hall.
Aye.
Alderman Frazier. Alderwoman Smith.
Aye.
Alderwoman Irving had to excuse herself.
Aye.
Alderman Davis.
Aye.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you so much. We are really excited about this. And we are so grateful to American Cruise Lines for not giving up on Natchez and being willing to build this dock. And if you want to see what this dock's going to look like, you should look at the one that has been constructed in Vacherie, Louisiana. This one's going to be very similar to that. And for our local media and sharing, we'll try to get a picture of that as soon as possible. All right. Yes, Alderman Frazier.
I don't want to get ahead of the game.
Yes.
But I need to ask you questions.
Yes.
If possible. This is gonna cost the city anything?
Well, there may be some things that we will end up working with Viking on. We'll see what that is. But the action that we just took will allow American Cruise Lines to do what they do. Now, we are going to have some ongoing discussions with Viking pertaining to now the possible movement. And we'll have those discussions, I'm sure, in the near future.
Like I said, I don't want to get ahead of the game. And my second question was, they're gonna get this dock built, but for public interest, if this dock is not being used, will it be open to the public?
We haven't verified that yet. That question has been asked. We would love to see that happen, and it could possibly happen, but until we get the go-ahead from American Cruise Lines, that remains to be seen. Okay. Very good questions, though. And I want to reiterate it. The city does look forward to working with Viking, and being that we are now asking them to move from one area to another area, there may be some financial considerations that we will have to discuss with Viking, but no reason to discuss that today until we really know what they are. But this is all a win-win, and we're really grateful. We're down to my report. I've given my report, although I do want to say there's so much positivity going on in Natchez. And a positive right now, we're hosting the State Association for Parks and Recreation departments from all over the state at our convention center. And I was there with Ryan Porter this morning, giving them a welcome and also providing a welcome on behalf of Alderwoman Hall. We're just so grateful to have that association in town. This weekend, they will start recruiting baseball players for the spring baseball season. So that's a good thing. Also, I'm happy to report that this morning, one of the very final stages of our Commerce Street project occurred. The contractor replanted the trees. And so we worked with with DNA, the Preservation Commission, and also the merchants along the street, and going back with trees very similar to what were there before. We promised them when we took out the trees to improve the sidewalks that we'll be putting the trees back. So we're grateful for that project. We do have a very brief executive session It is pertaining to a personnel matter. We're going to go ahead and ask for a motion to go into a closed determination of whether this constitutes reason to have executive session.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Maroney, seconded by Alderman Davis. We'll call for discussion. We'll call for question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, motion carries. We will have a closed determination right here. This is a matter pertaining to a personnel issue in the fire department. We do believe that it does meet the statute and how it is covered under our Open Meetings Act as a reason for us to have executive session. Mr. Attorney, is that your conclusion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, a matter of personnel and employment is within the exceptions to the Open Meeting Act, and it can be heard in executive session.
All right, thank you so much. I'll now call for a motion to adjourn this closed determination.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Davis, seconded by Alderman Maroney. Discussion. We'll call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion to go into executive session for the reasons just described.
So maybe.
Motion made by Alderwoman Smith,
Davis.
seconded by Alderman Davis. We'll call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. We will now end our live feed at this time. We thank everyone. We will have a report on this executive session when we return. Thank you.
Who made the motion?